a master, mentor, or a teacher to many young fighters, the man who held the gates for the smaller fighters, or simply the ultimate contender. What's up, guys? Here I will cover the legacy and the career of the California kid, Urijah Faber. In his career, we have to be honest here. He wasn't the greatest fighter. He was a very good fighter, a great fighter at that, but he wasn't among the best. Evidence for that is how many title fights he's gotten, how many title fights he's lost. The reason why he got so many title fights is because he was good enough to beat the contenders up to the title fight, but he always lost to the champion. He was the champion once a while ago, but as the competition and as the fighters started to grow, the young fighters started to come up, he was able to compete with them, but he was not able to overcome them. This happened throughout his whole mid to late career. If you count his whole career of fighting for a WEC or UFC championship, he fought 6 times for the belt and lost 6 times. Faber did win the featherweight belt in the WEC, and that is where he fought his longtime rival, Dominick Cruz. Beat him in his 3rd title defense, but it was a very young and green Dominick Cruz. Nothing to what we will see later in the rematch, 4 years later, and especially not what we see 10 years later in the rubber match. Urijah Faber had many skills. He had one of the most dangerous guillotines, one of the most dangerous scramblers, had power in his hands, and he was very fast and very slick. But a lot of his techniques and a lot of his skills did not work necessarily with the new style of MMA. You've seen it with opponents who would move around on him. You'll see with opponents who would walk him down and throw heavy leather at him. He's beaten many good fighters, but just at the top he wasn't able to be victorious. Some call him the ultimate contender. Some call him the best fighter to never win a champion belt in the UFC, which is saying he's the best B-level fighter. But there is much more to Urijah Faber than that. Urijah Faber may not have been the greatest fighter. He was a great fighter, but what he was the ultimate teacher. He was the ultimate mentor, one of the definitions of a martial artist. He was always gracious in defeat, always gracious in victory. He kept the same attitude whether he lost or whether he won. And he always congratulated his opponent with either outcome, and always gave him the respect they deserve, even his longtime rival, Dominick Cruz. And not only that, in defeat, he always saw the opportunity to throw in one of his fighters, one of his proteges in there. Whenever he lost a champion belt, either it was Renan Barão, either it was Dominick Cruz, he always wanted his fighters to have a chance too. He always knew that maybe he was not championship material in the UFC, but he knew that the fighters he has taught and the fighters he showed how to fight and brought him in early into his camp, into his gym, were that material. He had a very good eye for talent, a very good eye for who was a champion and who was not. He would throw in TJ Dillashaw against Renan Barão. No one thought TJ Dillashaw had a chance. When Urijah Faber mentioned Dillashaw's name in the post-fight interview and said, just give this guy a chance, he will prove everybody wrong, he will win that title. Everyone laughed. They didn't even know who TJ Dillashaw was. They remembered him as the guy who got knocked out by John Dodson, right? So he goes against Renan Barão. It was one of the most lopsided betting odds. Renan Barão being a huge favorite, marketed and promoted heavily as one of the greatest until that time. And TJ Dillashaw just went to work, just dominated the fight from bell to bell. And it showed Urijah Faber's eye for talent and championship material. And then you've seen it with Cody Garbrandt. After Urijah Faber's last title fight against Dominick Cruz, and he knew this was the end of it. He knew there was no more title fights for him. He lost 2 out of the 3 fights against his longtime rival, still with a great attitude, congratulated Cruz, and he did not cease the opportunity to throw in his other prodigy, and that is Cody Garbrandt. And again, Cody Garbrandt was ranked about number 8 at the time, and there was a lot of contenders waiting for Dominick Cruz because of Cruz's layoff. And many thought that TJ Dillashaw did enough to get the title shot. But Urijah Faber's word meant so much to the organization. They took his word for it. They trusted him that Cody was ready for the fight. And Faber encouraged everybody, watch out for this Cody Garbrandt kid. And again, not many gave Garbrandt a chance. They didn't think he was ready. He was too young. He had like 10 fights in his career. And Cody Garbrandt went out there and won the title in dominating fashion. Again, it shows what Urijah Faber was able to see in fighters. So it shows how much his word actually means in the MMA community. And not only those two, not only the champions. He knows when he has great fighters under him, who has the talent, and who can be built up to that talent, who can unlock their potential. When he sees Chad Mendes and he sees Joseph Benavidez, he knew Chad Mendes had an opportunity against Jose Aldo. He knew Joseph Benavidez had a chance against Demetrius Johnson in the first fight. Very close fights. He taught these fighters all that he knew and more. He gave them things that he didn't have when he was younger. And then he grew up with them. He raised them in the MMA space. They were the pride of him. His gym, his fighters under that gym, under that banner. I got that. That was his pride in MMA. Not so much that he wanted to become champion, because he did want to become champion. I really believe that he was behind his fighters more than anything. His loyalty was unquestionable against this whole TJ Dillashaw feud. His mind as a martial artist as well. His lifestyle represents what a martial artist should or can be like. He's an excellent businessman as well. He's one of the first fighters to understand the business of MMA. It's not just a sport. You also have to know the business side. He was one of the first stars in the lower weight classes. They say BJ Penn and Urijah Faber started the lighter weight divisions. More specifically, BJ Penn started the lightweight division when there was no lightweight division in the UFC. He was the one that brought attention to it by his fighting style. Same thing with Urijah Faber. Urijah Faber was more of the featherweights and the bantamweights, as he fought in both. His fighting style, his persona, his attitude, his image attracted the fans, and he helped create these two divisions for all of these fighters. Without him, there would be no Conor McGregor in the featherweight division. There would be no Jose Aldo in the featherweight division. There would be no Dominic Cruzes in the bantamweight division. All these great fighters would not have become what they have become if it wasn't for Urijah Faber. He is one of the most important and one of the most critical fighters to ever fight in the UFC or in MMA. Just as important BJ Penn was, Urijah Faber was as important, if not more. He is respected by all, not just fighters in MMA, but also the fans, the organizations, the owners of the organizations. Everybody respects Urijah Faber. Even Dominic Cruz respected Faber. Hated him for some reason, but still respected him. So if there was never a Urijah Faber, there would have never been a Conor McGregor. There's a possibility there would never have been a Jose Aldo. There's a possibility there would never have been a Dominic Cruz. And you're talking about some of the greatest fighters to ever step into an MMA arena. And not only that, Urijah Faber knew when to call it quits on his career. He knew he's done what he wanted to do. There was nothing left for him, and he left almost in the prime of his career. He left as one of the best bantamweights in the division. He wanted to focus more on his other fighters and his other businesses and other things like that. And people don't understand how hard it is for fighters to call it quits like that, especially when they're still very relevant in the division. And Faber did it easily, had no second thoughts about it, and just went out very proud of his career and very proud of what he's achieved. And then he ended his career in his home against a very tough veteran, and Brad Pickett won the fight in his home just as any fighter wants to. And that is the legacy of Urijah Faber. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe. And I have another video coming up, so be on the lookout for that. And I'm going to come out with a prediction video as well. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.